Dear family, friends, colleagues, welcome. I'd like to thank you all for coming. This is quite an impressive turnout. Mike would be proud. I'm Steve, Mike's youngest brother. This is an amazing venue for a service of this type. It's almost perfect. I wish only that Mike was here with us. He would have loved it. Instead, we are left to console ourselves with this remembrance. I'd like to start by offering you this tribute to Mike as best I can. I will try to be brief. Please bear with me. How do you measure a person's life? I've been struggling with that question of late. Talking with family this week, I've been hearing the same words used to describe Mike. Kind, gentle, devoted, caring. You will undoubtedly hear these words again today. I would like to add one of my own. Genuine. Merriam-Webster defines this word as actual, real, or true, not false or fake. That was Mike. There was never any artifice about him. What you saw was what you got. Looking at photos of him, what I see is a good and decent man. During his life, Mike was many things. He was a son, a brother, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a friend, a teammate, a colleague, a manager. It is my hope that we will hear from many of you who knew him in these different ways. A little bit of history. Our family moved around a bit in the early years. Mike was born in Portland, lived in the San Fernando Valley for a while, and spent most of his formative years in Los Alamitos. He attended St. Hedwig, a Catholic elementary school, and then later St. Anthony High School in Long Beach. Mike was always an excellent student. This would become the basis for his professional success later. We were a typical family during the 1960s. Being the oldest of 5 siblings, Mike was responsible for a lot of chores around the house, particularly out in the yard. He would sometimes babysit the rest of us if our parents were out. Our dad loved baseball, and he transmitted that love to us. We spent a lot of time playing catch. Mike played organized baseball during his youth, from Little League through his sophomore year of high school. He also excelled as a member of the Boy Scouts, reaching the highest rank of Eagle. In high school, he participated in several sports, most notably as a distance runner on the track team. He set a school record by running the mile in 4:31, as our brother Tom reminded me. He had many friends, a job at a local hamburger stand, and a late model Opel Kadett coupe. If you're wondering what an Opel Kadett looked like, Google it. Mike's was bright orange. He also began dating a girl who lived nearby that he'd known since grade school. After St. Anthony, Mike went to UC Irvine. He graduated in 4 years with a degree in engineering. This was in 1974. So what did he choose to do after all that hard work? He was only 22. Go backpacking around Europe? Lie on a beach somewhere? Sit around and drink beer? Not Mike. He married his girlfriend that summer and took a serious job with Westinghouse at a nuclear energy facility in Idaho Falls. I sometimes think that Mike must have emerged at birth as a fully formed adult. Two years later, he returned to Southern California after being hired by Edison to work at SONS, San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station, where he would spend the next 30-plus years. He settled down in the Oceanside Vista area. He started his career at San Onofre as a plant engineer, but through his diligence, native intelligence, and growing expertise in the nuclear energy field, he began to move steadily up through the ranks. I found his curriculum vitae online. I would like to read to you some of his job titles over the years in increasing order of responsibility. Supervisor of Ship Technical Advisors, Manager of Nuclear Training, Manager of Design Basis Documentation, Manager for Site Technical Services, Manager of System Engineering, and Director of Nuclear Strategic Planning. He once told me he had 600 people working under him. I can only imagine the weight of responsibility on him that must have entailed. We used to joke about it. If Mike wasn't available or couldn't meet some family obligation because of work, we would say, "That's okay, Mike. We'll take care of it. You just keep the plant from blowing up." In 2007, he became a vice president of nuclear engineering and technical services. How scary smart do you have to be to have a title like that? While his professional life was advancing, his personal life was not. His marriage to his high school girlfriend ended after 12 years. Despite the long association, they had grown distant from one another. This was a low point in Mike's life. Then, he met Julie. I remember when he introduced her to our family. She was pretty and vibrant and maybe a little nervous. Watching the two of them together, however, you could just tell that she was the one for him. In 1988, Mike and Julie got married in a beautiful ceremony at the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Niguel, not far from here. Now, it takes a special person to marry someone with a child from a different biological father and to raise that child as his own. I know there are others in this room who can also make this claim. I salute you. Now multiply that child by 4. At the time of the wedding, the girls ranged in age from 5 and up. And I have to say, they were adorable. And as I've been reminded this week, they still are. Julie was also caring for her niece. So there were actually 5 girls in the family. Think of all the princess birthday parties. Mike just jumped right in and never looked back. It was the best thing that ever happened to him. I think that he was always grateful for how completely they accepted him into their fold. In a few minutes, you will hear from his daughters just how much Mike meant to each of them. In 2009, Mike announced to everyone that he was stepping down from his position with Edison. He described this new phase of his life as semi-retirement. He started consulting instead, often with Edison, but also with other energy companies. For Mike, semi-retirement meant working 5 days a week instead of 6 or 7. Still, it also meant that he had more time to spend with his family. I'm told by reliable sources that he and Julie were inseparable. They did everything together. And from the many photos I've seen this week, it also seems evident how much he enjoyed his grandkids. For myself, I will always appreciate Mike for the way he managed affairs for our parents in the last years of their lives. He was able to maintain their financial assets so that they were able to afford the increasingly expensive care they needed. This was not always an easy task. Mom had opened something like 27 different bank accounts. Mike had to visit each bank separately to close accounts so that he could consolidate her money. I will also remember him in many other respects. Family gatherings, dinners with him and Julie, his love of cooking, an occasional baseball game, a camping trip to Yosemite we took together, his offer of help to us when we moved a few years ago, the warmth of his smile. Mike's passing was sudden, unexpected, and far too soon. He had not been to a doctor for a while. It may be that while he was busy taking care of everyone around him, he was not taking care of himself. That was also Mike. In closing, I'd like to return to the question I posed at the outset. How do you measure a person's life? I think I may have found an answer to that one now. L. Frank Baum wrote in The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, "A heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others." The outpouring of grief I've seen this week, and the fact that you are all here, today is testament, I think, to how big Mike's heart was. Thank you for listening.